Today in Tallahassee, Florida, just before noon, a gunman opened fire, killing 2 and injuring 6 at Florida State University. And that has led us to the question, is this the Mangione effect? Is the impulse to violence something that is becoming predominant on the left? Does this have anything to do with politics at all, or is this just a young man that has decided that his life was not worth living? So we will discuss that today. There was a post on X by Nicholas Decker, and I'm not going to say the name of the post, but this is also related to the questions that we're asking. And his questions are about, when is it time to take the law into your own hands? And I guess that's probably the best way to say it this early in the show. And so we'll talk about that. From the Post-Millennial, we have some information about Carmelo Anthony's press conference, I guess. There was some drama because the father of Austin Metcalf showed up to the press conference, and for some reason, Carmelo Anthony's parents didn't like that. So we'll discuss that. RFK Jr. was in D.C. today, and he was talking about autism and its effects on young people. And there are people in the media that have a problem with the way that he characterized the issue, because it's a real issue that is extremely important. So we'll discuss that. Donald Trump was talking with Israel about strikes on Iran, and he's opted to continue negotiations with Iran, as opposed to doing what it seems like Bibi Netanyahu wanted, which is to actually strike. So more of the Trump is actually the guy that wants peace, no matter what people seem to think. The U.S. is also, the New York Times says the U.S. is withdrawing hundreds of troops from Syria, which begs the question, why are there hundreds of troops in Syria? We're not at war with Syria. We know that Syria has got had a massive civil war. Now that there's a new government, I assume it's probably not friendly to the United States government, so that's probably why they're pulling him out, but we'll talk about that. And then if we get to it, SpaceX and a few of its partners emerge as frontrunners to build part of Trump's Golden Dome project. Talking about missiles from space. So before we get into that, I want you to head on over to Cask Brew Coffee. You can go ahead and buy some Alex Stein's Primetime Grind, which is extra caffeine. But if you're a little more laid back, you can get Ian's Graphene Dream, which we have some in stock. That's the big seller. We have plenty in stock, so go ahead and get yourself some of that. They've got Appalachian Nights, which is actually what I tend to drink. I've become a coffee guy in the past few years, which is kind of weird. Most people kind of get into coffee when they're in their 20s, and I waited until I was in my late 40s. But head on over to Casper to get yourself some coffee, and then head on over to the boonieshq.com, and you can pick up skateboard decks, which are super sweet. The 28th Amendment, chickens being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear and breed chickens shall not be infringed. An adorable square chicken on the board. Go on and pick yourself up one of those. So smash the like button, share the show with your friends. We're here to talk about that and so much more. Maggie Moda, right?
Yes, I go by Maggie Moda on X and Undoctrination on YouTube, but I work for the Foundation for Economic Education. Opinions are my own. I am super happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for coming. Lisa, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm here strictly to annoy you.
Well, that's strictly what you do. So.
But if you guys don't know who I am, I book for Timcast, The Culture War, and I don't know, just here to have fun, hang out.
Sick. And we also have Libby Emmons from the Post-Millennial.
I'm here. I'm Libby Emmons from the Post-Millennial. I'm glad to be here with you guys.
All right. So let's get into it. Fox News reports Florida State University shooting suspect, who is Phoenix Ickner. The suspect who opened fire at Florida State University, FSU in Tallahassee, Florida, on Thursday, killing 2 and injuring 6 others, was identified by law enforcement officials as the 20-year-old son of a sheriff's deputy. Leon County Sheriff Walter McNeil identified Phoenix Ickner as the shooter, saying, "It's not a surprise to us that he had access to weapons." Shouldn't a sheriff's deputy know how to secure their weapons? They continue. His mother, Jessica Ickner, is a sheriff's deputy with the Leon County Sheriff's Office. She's been with the office for over 18 years, and McNeil said she has done a tremendous job in her position. During the course of her career, authorities said she served as a school resource officer. McNeil said Phoenix Ickner used his mother's handgun in the shooting at FSU. So apparently, this young man, he's been. There's questions surrounding whether or not this is a politically motivated, or whether there was any politics involved in this, or whether this was just another young kid that was somehow struggling with modern society, which seems to be almost the norm nowadays. So what do you guys think? Do you guys believe that this has got something broader than just a kid that has decided that he's had enough of the day-to-day living in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think everyone automatically jumped on this idea that he's an anti-Trump protester, that he was part of this socialist student union club. I think the quote they're pulling from this article kind of proves that he's not part of them. If you read the line before it, it said, "Once the protesters reached the integration statue, Florida State University Police Department officers stood on guard and groups of onlookers began to form." And then they bring in his quote, "These people are usually pretty entertaining, usually not for good reasons." I think it's a little too late. He's already going to be inaugurated on January 20th, and there's not really much you can do unless you outright revolt, and I don't think anyone wants that. It seems to me that he's not an anti-Trumper. It doesn't really seem like he has an opinion on him, really.
Libby, what do you got?
I am not sure either. I don't know that we have necessarily a political motivation at this point. Mm-hmm. We have seen a lot of politically motivated violence of late. There was Luigi Mangione, obviously, but even since then, there's been the Tesla violence. There was this kid in Wisconsin who killed his parents as part of a plot to overthrow Trump and the government, and then secretly head off to Ukraine. And this is just some of it, Was he actually in touch with anyone in Ukraine? According to the FBI documents, it looks like he was. There was someone he was in touch with who had a Ukrainian phone number, and he was talking to this person over text about what's going to happen when he moves to Ukraine and how that's going to go down.
That's a similar situation to the attempted assassination attempt on Donald Trump earlier last year.
Right, Ryan Ruth in September at the golf course. Yeah. So
he was in contact.
Also was in contact with Ukraine. But in Ruth's case, that was a situation where he had been doing fundraising and advocacy for Ukraine for a while at that point, and I think had even been there. We also saw recently a poll that came out that was what was it? 55% of Americans think that it's reasonable to assassinate Donald Trump.
Americans?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
55%.
Wasn't it? Do I have this totally wrong?
I don't think it was
Maybe
Americans.
Democrats.
I think it was Democrats.
That's unbelievable.
Was it Democrats?
I think so.
Let me look up in my.
I don't think Donald Trump's poll number, or his likability has gone down a little bit.
55% of left-leaning Americans say it's somewhat justified to kill Trump.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. And so what we have is a situation where for years we've had people on the left saying words are violence, which makes them think that self-defense is reasonable. And if words are violence, then violence is violence. And they can just, spout off and hurt people because of that.
So you think that the narrative being spun, or the phrase phrases like words are violence, you think that that's contributing, or do you think that?
I just think it's part of the overall ethos, right? If words are violence, then if you insult me, self-defense.
So I
can, take out.
I forget
some
who
kind
the
of aggression against you because of that.
So I saw a tweet today, and I forget who it was that actually said it, and I apologize. But it started off with the idea that on the left, they believe that violence can be used like a volume knob. You can turn it up and you can turn it down, so you can go from just getting into fistfights and brawls up to actually firebombing Tesla dealerships, to actually murdering people. Whereas with the right, they tend to look at violence as either totally off limits or that's all you're doing. It's a light switch. Do you guys have a sense that you see those kind of do you feel like people have that kind of understanding? Or
I think that just the left is increasingly more violent than the right, even though they try to play that it's the other way around. But even more than that, I think that there's a big problem lately with teens and violence, like across America. Teen violence in general is skyrocketing, and nobody really wants to talk about it. I'm talking from 12, 13, 14 up.
Are you talking about fighting or
no, murders, violence in general? Like you look at this other kid that was doing the Trump thing, this school shooter, it's just over and over again. We see that it's almost like they have no morality. There was a clip of somebody filming this mass shooting, and they filmed the body.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have no sanctity for life? It's almost like that's even more of a problem.
So
in
I
general.
saw the video
People think that. Oh, go ahead.
I saw the video that you're talking about. I didn't have a chance to listen to it. Was there any audio? Were they saying anything?
No, she was just taking a sip of her Starbucks, walking casually.
Was she actually taking a sip?
Yes.
Okay. Because it looked to me like
the
her-
Starbucks
disgrace.
cup was in the shot.
Yes, I saw
and
the
she
Starbucks
walks
cup.
past this woman who is either dying or
Dead.
is very injured.
Yeah.
And she just walks past. And what's interesting is that she filmed it, right? Most of this generation is being exposed to brutal violence daily online. And, not all of this violence that's been happening, the school shootings, have been political. Some of it has come through the true crime community. And what's really interesting about that community is that they really venerate these school shooters and really sanctify them. It's
So did Audrey Hale.
really creepy.
Like
Same thing
Audrey
with the
Hale.
drill thing,
Audrey
too.
was Tennessee.
Audrey was Tennessee. The Covenant school shooting killed three children and 3 staff members at a school. And when they finally released all of these, notebooks that she had in it, she was really venerating the Columbine shooters. She really thought that they were just the bee's knees.
Yeah. And so apparently women and men are coming to this through 2 different paths. So girls are coming to it through, eating disorder communities.
Really?
Yeah. And then men or young boys are coming to these communities through gore. So
See now, I'm of the
You're talking
generation.
about white kids, but black kids are coming through drill rap and Instagram beefs.
yeah.
So
What's
to your
interesting-
point, hold on. To your point about coming to it through gore. I'm of the generation when Rotten.com was still a thing.
Yeah.
When you could go to Live Leak and there were graphic things and I've seen all the as a young guy, not as a teenager. Right, because I was a teenager in the early '90s, but when Rotten.com was a thing in the early aughts and stuff, I've seen all the the chainsaws and the Mexican cartel violence and stuff like that. I don't get the sense that my generation had more violence because of that stuff. So do you
but
think
you
that
might have been old enough to be able to process that and recognize it as wrong. But think about these kids that are getting computers at 10 or 11, and that's what they're seeing, and they're exposing themselves to that constantly on a day in day.
But my point is, you can't. The internet's way less of the Wild West than it was back 20 years
But
ago.
it was harder to access too.
Yeah. Now, my
not
point is,
really.
nowadays, is there? It's my understanding or my impression that the internet is actually more sanitized than it used to be. You can There are. So we talk about. There's a lot of murders that have happened that you can't actually find the original videos of anymore. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You mentioned the gore thing.
Yeah.
And in the FBI documents with the Wisconsin teen, this guy, Nikolai Kassup, a classmate told the FBI that Kassup would send gore edit videos that included flashing gory and war images put to Russian music via Snapchat. And then he said, that he intended to kill his parents, but he was involved in this gore stuff. But I think that certainly people can be conditioned to accept measures of violence. And that can happen through, a number of different ways. Like this is something that we've seen in war. Like soldiers will be intentionally conditioned to accept violence and extreme horror and things like that. That's definitely true. But for decades and decades now, we've been told that it's either heavy metal music that's causing our kids to go nuts, or it's rap music.
Well, it's not that,
or it's all of these different things. And I think that there's something different going on than just, this experience of seeing horrifying things, or,
I mean, listen, it's definitely,
and there's a lack of respect for life.
Yeah.
There's a lack of belief in an everlasting soul. There's a lack of a belief that you have an innate part of yourself that cannot be, that you can protect, that can't be broken. I think that kind of concept is missing, and whether it's the decline of religion or the decline of any care for our neighbors. And then just to what you were saying about the cell phones, I think people use cell phones as a shield, and they think they're protected from it. Like I remember riding the subway when I lived in New York, and I would think, like, if I look at my phone, no one's going to bother me. Well, that's stupid. That doesn't
I think it's
mean
absent
anything.
parenting.
Yeah.
I think
there's that too, but that's not the only thing.
Yeah, but I think it's a bigger concept. Like a lot of these kids are killing each other over like disses, or like, being made fun of, or being insulted, or those type of things. Like
honor culture kind of thing.
It's not honor culture.
Well, that's the kind of thing that you're
describing.
describing.
It's
why I'm
like
asking.
emulating.
I'm asking you a question. You don't need to
rappers.
roll your eyes at me, Philadelphia.
honor culture makes it seem like there's something noble about it. There's something noble about this. These people don't earn respect. What happens is they don't have any self-esteem. They don't have any self-respect, and they don't have anybody to guide them. And so instead of doing something productive with their lives, they take this short way to get this instant gratification. They put it on Instagram for clicks. And that's why I don't think it's about like drill the music. It's just that they diss them in the music. It's about the attention and the need to fill a void and feel special, feel connected to something, because they're not connected to their parents. They're not connected to their neighborhoods. They're not connected to their school. They're totally empty, miserable vessels. And so they're filling it with whatever attention they can, and they ratchet it up. Like, so it would be street fighting, or it would be carjacking. And now it's shooting people who dish you on a song on Instagram. Like it is a literal emptiness that they're filling because they have no self-esteem.
Nihilism, ultimately, I mean, it's very empty, but ultimately people just don't end up valuing human life. And Taylor Lorenz was recently on Hannity, I think it was, saying that she doesn't believe in souls. I mean, it's no wonder that she's endorsing Luigi Mangione.
Yeah, I mean, so Taylor Lorenz not believing in souls is typical of either an agnostic or an atheist. And Taylor Lorenz is, fine, she can believe what she wants, but everyone knows she's kind of a moron anyway. So I don't know that I'm convinced that it is either music, and the reason I say that is because I
don't think it is either.
Because like the things that you're describing in drill rap, where they'll diss each other on Instagram and stuff. Look, you saw
that's the byproduct of what's happening.
You saw that stuff in the early 90s.
No, it's not like this. This is not the same. I swear to God,
how is it not the same
it's
when
not
you had Dr. Dre and Eazy-E and all those guys?
But it wasn't cool for 12-year-olds to go to try to kill their quote ops just because they got dissed on a song. It is slaughter. So I'm talking every other week we have a 13-year-old dying, a 16-year-old dying, a 14-year-old dying in Philly, like every week, and no one is talking about it. And then it's spreading.
But what was wasn't the murder rate really high in Southern California back in the 90s?
During like the COVID epidemic in 2022, like they got stimulus checks, and they admitted in tons of these videos, like Brandon Buckingham and all these other people did like videos about what it was like in that culture. And they, with their stimulus checks, they bought guns. They literally bought guns. And the killings ratcheted up by like 50%. And it's still happening. Even I'm going to give Larry Krasner credit here, is that he's really like buckling down on. We just arrested I think it was like 9 kids, and they were involved in at least 16 violent homicides. One kid had 5 bodies that just got shot. I'm talking like these are kids slaughtering each other. And it's spreading. It's kind of like this Carmelo Anthony kid. He felt like he got dissed, and the answer was to kill somebody. It is definitely spreading. It's not just in the inner city, and it's spreading from like Instagram and the music, but it's not the music that's driving it. It's the culture that's driving it. Music is like a side product of it, like an externality. It's bad though, and nobody even know. Like I talk to people all the time, like how many teenagers died in the last 3 months in Philly? They have no idea.
It's the underlying beliefs about human life.
Right.
And those beliefs come with those communities or certain parts of those communities now. It's not that like the entire community believes that. It's that this is how radicalization works all over the internet. You have a funnel, that gets more and more extreme towards the bottom.
Okay. But the reason I asked, so you're talking about predominantly black kids.
Well,
right?
in that situation,
In that situation, but isn't the black community one of the most religious communities? Now, granted,
they're
they
turning
don't.
Muslim, and it's especially in the inner cities. Like our Muslim population is growing exponentially
Through converts?
big time. We have one of the biggest black convert to Muslim population in all of America. They had a couple of years ago, I think it was 5 years ago or something, they had kids from Philly singing things about like killing infidels and stuff that was like a teen thing. And they're like, sorry, we put it up. It was an accident. We didn't mean to. But like,
We put it up. Not sorry we were doing it. Sorry we put it on
like
the
they were
internet.
like, that was an oversight. Like, no, it's an oversight that you got caught. And they're over there like literally singing about killing people and beheading infidels. Like, I'm not kidding. And it is, they're religious in that way. But these kids, they like, quote, jump off the porch and there's no parent structure. And some of the moms are involved. There was this one mom, she's on Instagram bopping her head like after the kid who shot her son got shot. She was like, oh, bragging. She's like, I'm gonna smoke a doob. I'm gonna do a shot, like to like praise his death. Like the parents, because they're so young and they're also no structure in their life, like they're in on it. It's crazy. And it's spreading, but it is spreading.
Libby, what do you know
Look
of this murderous culture that Lisa's describing?
You have to look into it.
I don't know much about the murderous culture that Lisa.
Watch American Confidential.
I got out of cities a couple of years
Yeah, you were
ago,
smart. You were
so
smart.
I'm
listen
paying
to
a lot
Tim
of
Pool.
attention. I know, and Jack and everybody was.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I can't.
No, it's weird. But I lived in a very Muslim neighborhood in Brooklyn in Bay Ridge, and there were protests almost every weekend, right on my block, against Israel and pro-Palestinian and all that stuff. And that was way before October 2023.
Yep.
And there was a very large Muslim population there. In fact, that is where Linda Sarsour is from, who led the Women's March until she was kicked out for being anti-Semitic. And it's also where the Bin Laden family used to hang out before 9/11. So it's a long-standing Islamic neighborhood. But I haven't looked too much into the contemporary stuff. One of my high school classmates, though, did convert to Islam, which I discovered at a class reunion years later.
They have this thing like where you'll see them like they come out of prison and
she was a
whoever
black girl
has the
from
darkest mark on their head shows their most loyalty to Islam. Like it's a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna
Anyway.
on that note. So we're gonna go to something that we were talking about. Whether or not this is the Mangione effect, and so we're gonna jump to this story from Fox News. Accused CEO assassin Luigi Mangione indicted on federal charges. So this, I'm not sure what the charges would be in New York State, but I don't think New York State has the death penalty. But this,
I believe it's on hold.
Oh, what in New York State is on hold?
Yeah, I believe it's been on hold for a long time, but they used to have it. I'm pretty sure. I don't know that it's been totally outlawed.
Okay, so we have this is actually, you got to join Fox News. Do you have the key to get in here? Let's see.
Who subscribes to Fox News?
I thought that we did.
No. Yuck.
Wait, so why are they charging him with federal charges? and not just
I think
looking at
it's
the
so that way they can give him the death penalty.
Hopefully.
So let's see. From the AP, federal prosecutors seek death penalty for Luigi Mangione and United Healthcare CEO killing. New York, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said Tuesday that she has directed prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, following through on the president's campaign promise to vigorously pursue capital punishment. It is the first time the Justice Department has sought to bring the death penalty since President Donald Trump returned to office in January with a vow to resume federal executions after they were halted under the previous administration. Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of 2 young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America, Bondi said in a statement. She described Thompson's killing as an act of political violence. Mangione, a 26-year-old Ivy League graduate from a prominent Maryland real estate family, faces separate federal and state murder charges after authorities say he gunned down Thompson, 50, outside a Manhattan hotel on December 4th as the executive arrived for United Healthcare's annual investor conference. So generally, I am against the death penalty because I think of how well the DMV performs, and that's kind of what I expect from the government all the time.
I used to feel that way, but now.
And I know Maggie is against the death penalty as a L word. I'm not going to say it, but what, do you have thoughts on this development here?
Yeah, I mean, from a principled position, I'm against the death penalty, but also for Luigi Mangione, I think it's a horrible idea to turn him into a martyr. His approval rate.
By the time he gets killed, though, he won't be martyr status by that.
I don't
that
know.
Long after all the appeals processes and stuff.
I think it's gonna keep ratcheting up, especially if they actually go through with it. It's shocking and disturbing how many people my age are all in on Luigi, but they are.
He's like the new Mumia Abu Jamal or Leonard Peltier, you know. But like there are these guys who end up committing federal crimes, who commit federal crimes, and then are just lionized by the left, like Mumia or, you know, Peltier, who was a killer also. But I think also Biden put a freeze on the death penalty. Yeah. And Trump said, nah, we're done with that freeze. I'm entirely 100% thoroughly opposed to capital punishment because...
Am I the only one that's not? I used to feel that way.
Because I'm Christian, and so I just like...
I used to think that like, okay, fine, we can't, like, we got to be consistent. No abortions, we have to care about life. But no. And now I'm like, I don't care if we get occasionally one wrong. These people have to go. And I'm tired of absolute derelicts being in our society. Not only am I tired of them being there, I'm tired of paying for them to like go to the gym and work out and have internet access. No, you have to go.
I mean, if you look into it, all of the appeals and all of the cost that goes into actually killing someone.
That's why we should do it right away.
I think that's a terrible idea. I think absolutely we should not be taking people's lives. I think the government should not be taking people's lives.
I used to feel that way because I like wanted to be like consistent, but no.
Oh, it's not about consistent.
If somebody like did something heinous to my child and they didn't,
but that's why victims aren't in charge of penalties and punishment.
Put yourself in every parent's shoes.
That's why we need law. It's not about being in parents' shoes.
No.
That's why we need law.
Those people, that's justice. That is justice. Get rid of them. Put these pedophiles.
I don't think vengeance.
I can't say it on here, but
yeah. Please don't say it on here.
You know.
So I actually, I mean, generally I'm against the death penalty, not because there are not people that deserve it, but because I don't trust the government.
That's
and they get things wrong.
I don't trust them to do my taxes.
Yeah.
I hate that. Like I'll do my taxes and then they'll be like, you screwed up. And it's like, no, you screwed up.
There has to be overwhelming
shocking percentage of people on death row that end up getting exonerated.
But that was because they've been sitting there for 30 years before they had like DNA evidence and things like that.
It is more likely that nowadays they're going to get it right.
Correct.
Because of things like DNA evidence and because of cameras everywhere and stuff. So again, I'm not against it in principle, as in like Libby, you mentioned your religious faith is why, and I don't have any problem like that. It's just that I don't think the government is good at things and stuff. So generally, I kind of think that it might be a bad idea, but. You know, I do understand what you're saying about making a martyr out of him. Is that a good reason to not do things, though? So put him in jail forever? Is he less of a martyr because of that? They already lionize him. They already have the candles, the Luigi Mangione candles, because they're absolute psychopaths. Which is, I mean, it's vile.
So disrespectful, first of all, to the Catholic faith.
The finger goes up and everything.
It's so disrespectful. Put the candles away. I hate when they do that. They do that for every liberal politician too. Have you ever been to one of those bookstores and you see like the wall? You know,
because they're mocking God.
Ugh. Disgusting.
But,
anyways, yeah,
I should go too.
I think it's fair to say that, you know,
They're already saying I'm crazy in the chat and I'm drunk. I'm like, no, this is just me, guys.
No, she's not had a drop.
Yeah,
chat.
like that's just
That
me,
is her.
guys.
Yeah, for principled reasons, I'm against the death penalty. But also, even in this case, even though we know that he's probably allegedly guilty, I think it's a horrible idea.
You're just gonna go and shoot somebody in the back, and then you just get to kind of like chill in prison.
Yeah, he's gonna collect those love letters for the rest of his
Right.
life. But
and feel great
know,
about himself.
hopefully, God sorts him out. You know.
God can sort him out at judgment time at the pearly gates.
Yeah.
Phil, why are you laughing at me?
Why do you think I'm laughing?
I don't know why that's such
You're
like
hilarious.
a crazy position. Like I think that these people deserve like that you have to be removed from society.
No,
And
I totally understand, and I agree with you. I think they should be put in jail. I definitely think they should be put in jail forever. And that's what we do with people generally. Putting people in jail. We take young, violent men, young men that tend to be too violent to be in society, and we put them in jail until they're not young and violent.
And jail is pretty bad.
What do you guys think of this proposition of sending American citizen criminals to El Salvador in prisons?
I'm not into that.
I'm totally opposed.
Yeah,
I also don't
100%
think
plan.
that that's what his plan is. Like it's part of like a scaring deterrent factor. And everybody keeps saying things like when it comes to Trump about like, oh, is he really going to do this or that? Or I forget what it was the other day. I think it was Poso put up a thing like, should we go to a war with Iran? Like, no, clearly we shouldn't, but we shouldn't tell the whole world we don't support him in doing that. He has to have it as leverage, right? And so if he's going to scare the crap out of everybody and say, get your act together, and if you hit somebody over the head with a baseball bat, we might send you to the gulag, then let them think that, and let's like have some deterrent mechanism there.
So I
You don't have to actually send them.
I don't have a problem. I don't
Just threaten to send.
I don't like the idea of sending them to El Salvador. I don't have a problem with Gitmo. Genuinely, I don't have a problem with Guantanamo Bay. And I also don't have a problem with building another supermax like the one they got in Colorado. You know, turn a mountain into a prison. You know, dig a hole in it and stuff them under the mountain. I'm fine with that. You know, because there are people that can't be in society the way that the rest of us can. They're just too violent, or they're not able, you know, they can't function in society, and they decide, you know, of their own volition to behave in ways that are just unacceptable. And so you can't be in society. You can't be in society. It's not a problem for me.
Did you ever read The Penal Colony? You know, that Kafka story?
No.
So the penal colony, the idea is that everybody gets, every bad guy gets sent to the penal colony, and then they're put basically on a spit, right? Where they're like suspended, and their crime is tattooed on their body as they are slowly turned on the spit.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's an execution device, really, but like you're tattooed to death with your crime to death.
Death by tattoo.
Death by, tattoo in the penal colony.
I think if we brought back a little more drastic punishments with a little more
I see. When you came in today, you're like, I don't have anything to say. I don't really have opinions.
I really
I'm like,
don't.
BS. You're going to be all over the mic
I
tonight.
just think that like if you have a little more drastic punishments and a little bit more it's done expediently, I think that the reason that it's not like capital punishment isn't a deterrent is because like you don't see the result of it soon with all the appeals and things like that. I think it would be more of a deterrent. Like, look at Singapore. We're chopping off hands, right? Like,
For chewing gum.
right. Okay, cool. But their place is clean,
gum
and there's not
anywhere.
as many, mass murders and kids shooting each other all the time. I mean,
But there's
they're
no
free.
freedom of speech. I mean, the risk of freedom is that you give up your safety, and I think
Speech is different than
but it's all of it.
committing crime.
But it's all of it. Like, I remember this talk I heard with Camille Paglia, and she was talking about how when she was in college, she was at a women's college. I think she was at Radcliffe, right? Because she's a super genius. So she was at Radcliffe, and the women's dorms had curfews, and they had to be back in the dorm by some early time, and the boys could stay out all night. So the women were pissed, and they were like, hey, that's not fair. And the school was like, well, we're just doing this for your protection. Mm-hmm. And she said, I have the right to go out and have something terrible happen to me because I would rather have my freedom than your protection. and limits on my freedom.
love her
And
so
that's what
much.
America is, right? We have our freedoms.
I don't feel that way. I think that men and women are wildly different, and that women should be
Sure, but,
treated
like-
differently, and women should have more restrictions on them than men.
Oh, I totally.
My daughter's not allowed to go to
disagree.
college. Like,
Your
I don't-
daughter's
I
not
don't-
allowed
I
to
don't-
go to
I'm not
college?
encouraging her to go to college. No, why? So I can spend $200,000 to let her go get drunk and be a pegboard? No, she's not going.
That's not
I
the
think
only way
any
to do
woman
college.
you raise will know better, you know?
She better.
Yeah.
But like,
You got a
no,
strong mama,
I definitely
so.
think that women should be a little. Like, here I am talking, right? But whatever. That's kind of how my life fell into things. But I really do think that like women do need a little protection, and we should kind of, you know, we should put those boundaries in place a little bit more than we have now, because look at what it's gotten us.
Well,
women are
there's
a
parents-
disgusting
There's
mess.
parents being strict, and then there's women not having equality under the law, and those are two very different things.
I don't know if I like total equality under the law.
And I think
thoroughly in
women should
favor of
have
it.
freedom, but we should also understand what the risks are and be
So
like
should
really
everyone.
realistic.
Like our
about
boys have
risks.
freedom;
So-
they know what the risks are, and some of them go
So,
off.
but
and,
society doesn't
and
want
kill
that,
people.
Libby.
Yeah.
Libby, society doesn't want that, and
Doesn't want
it's not.
what?
You can't deny the fact that like society has said that women are going to be enfranchised. They're going to have the ultimate liberty that men have,
Right.
but at the same time, they want special treatment, and that's
I
something
don't
that
see a lot of what special treatment.
He's right.
there's
special
there's
treatment? Like
there's
for-
well
for
first of all
pregnancy?
things like the draft and stuff like that. So they don't get they're not
please
they're not
don't draft.
capable of serving in the military the way that men are, right? So they can't.
My
they
son's,
they're a distraction.
My son's friend, who's a girl, they have like a whole group chat. And she was pissed today when she found out that she would not be permitted to register for the draft. She was very angry about it.
Really?
Feminism.
More power to this girl.
Pouring into people's brains. There's so many covert. My mom's. I love you, mom. But like even like there's certain things like have your own bank account. Do this. You can be in the draft. You can no. You're women. Go have babies. Go do what God wanted you to do. Go take care of it.
But that's
nurture
not,
people.
That's not for everybody. I mean, it doesn't
It's
have
not
to
for
be
everybody. It used to be for the majority of women until feminism poisoned everybody's brains, and then everybody feels like they have to work, they have to achieve something, that they have to show whatever. I
do
was
think
felt into that.
So feminism has sold society a lie that you can be a CEO and you can be a mom of 4 and you can
No, you
do them
can't.
both
And you can't
equally
do-
and you can do them both at
But
the
you
same
can work
time.
and have kids.
No.
One thing I wish we would do is teach women how to find careers where you can do both. Like what I do for work, I can totally do. And
No, they all want they want to be Iron
I don't want to
Man
be
as well
I don't want
as
to be Iron Man.
No,
you know,
be a
like
mom.
I chose my path. I chose not to be the CEO girl boss, and a lot of women are finding out that's not for them.
Yeah,
But
that's-
also I think a lot of women underestimate how fulfilling work can be when you're choosing your path and it fits into your life.
But look at this. We were just talking about teens and kids, and everybody's a little more violent. People are detached. They're on their cell phones. Like all these things. What is the result of that? Right? Like, what does that come from? That comes from people thinking they can do it all and not focusing on their children and the things that are important.
All right, so listen, we're gonna
skip
we're gonna
this.
wrap this, and we're gonna jump to this story here. Nicholas Decker is a student. I'm not sure where he's a student, but he posted this on Twitter earlier today, and it's got a boatload of views. It's at 5.1 million views, and all of my friends were sharing this and basically dunking on the guy because, well, I mean, look at him. But his tweet says, "The ultimate source of political power is and always will be violence. If the present administration should continue on its course, there is no choice but war. I say this out of sorrow. When must we kill them?" And he wrote a whole big old piece on Substack about when he believes violence is acceptable, and of course it's from a left-leaning perspective. It is the Donald Trump is the big boogeyman, and again this speaks to the point that Libby brought up earlier, that 55% of Democrats believe that violence is acceptable to some degree. And I think that they probably only say to some degree because most people are a little apprehensive about saying, yeah, let's go cut their heads off. You know, like nobody wants to come out and say that.
They
very
do
much.
say it, though. I was just filming on the street in Philly with James, real quick. This is
Yeah,
crazy.
nothing to say, right?
I know. Because listen,
I was right.
we were literally filming on the street, and we were asking people if they're okay with the Tesla violence and everything like that. And the man goes, you know, sometimes that's what you have to do. Look at the French Revolution. He was like, they were using the guillotine, right? And so James asks him, he goes, so do you think we should, you know, is it okay if we do the guillotine to Elon Musk? And the guy was like, yeah. And then a sentence later, and he's like, I have like totally centrist, moderate views. Like he literally said that, like they don't even realize how insane they are. Like none of them realize that.
See, this is why people really should actually watch the videos from the Mexican cartels because that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That's what you get, right? Like there is, like I said earlier, the left seems to think that there is a volume knob on violence. And that's not how it works. You don't get to say, oh, okay, it's a little too rich for me now, so I'm going to turn it down. And there's a phrase when it comes to the military and in war that you hear all the time. The bad guy gets a vote too. Once you open that box, right? Once both sides have said, okay, this is the course of action that we're taking, you don't get to say, oh, wait a minute, that's too much. And for too many people don't understand that it's not Lexington and Concord. It's not going to be, you know, red coats versus the blue coats. It's not going to be like that. What it'll end up being is cartel violence. It'll be like the mob violence. It won't be anything pretty. So these kind of things, in my opinion, they're just totally ridiculous to even entertain. Like you should not be talking about this stuff. Yeah. But again, we live in a world where there were two attempts on the president's life during the and the Democrats have changed zero. There are multiple very big accounts on X that I can think of that are constantly saying Trump's a Nazi, constantly making the comparisons to Germany in the 30s, and it does not stop. Keith Olbermann, Rachel Beitkofer, there's a bunch of people that are consistently making the same kind of allegations, and when you hear that over and over, you get ridiculous stuff like this. I'm going to read the first paragraph here. Evil has come to America. The present administration is engaged in barbarism. It has arbitrarily imprisoned its opponents. That's just not true. There are no political opponents that are imprisoned. Revoked the visas of thousands of students. Well, they're visas. I mean, that's not all that big of a deal. Imposed taxes upon us without our consent. What? That's what
they do.
It's totally detached from reality and seeks to destroy the institutions which oppose it. Its leader has threatened those who produce unfavorable coverage and suggested that their licenses be revoked. It has deprived us, in many cases, of trial by jury. That's just not true. It has subjected us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and has transported us beyond seas to be imprisoned for pretended offenses. That's not true either. He's talking about the Maryland man. We have a media that encourages this, that continues to feed this narrative.
The Media Research Center did a study of the coverage of Garcia versus the coverage of Rachel Morin. And there was like 100% more coverage of our Garcia than Rachel Morin, because what the media enterprises want to do is set this up as a example as to why there should be no deportations. And what I think is really important to realize is that the administration that came before Trump encouraged all of this illegal immigration with absolutely no intention of sending anybody home ever at any time for any reason. You know, so now it's like
Serge the border.
Yeah. So now that was the whole point. And so now when you have people like this doofus who are saying, you know, political opponents are being imprisoned, and what he's talking about are criminals who are being told finally to leave, you know, and judges who are coming out and saying, oh, you can't just terminate temporary protective status for 500,000 people. You can't just deport people without due process. We have 10 million extra people in this country, right? That came in under Biden.
More than that, but go ahead.
But okay, but let's just go with 10 million, right? Because
still wild.
It's still wild. But just under Biden, who came in, because it was like over 2 million a year. by the official count, by the Biden administration's own count. So, already it's going to be way more. But you have all of these people come in. How long would it take to give due process to 10 million people? It would take centuries, like literal centuries. And so when you had the Biden administration trying to push that bill through Congress, what was it, last June, saying that we needed more judges, more immigration judges, they wanted more judges so they could get more people in. And at the same time as they were doing that, they were cutting off cases. They were saying, okay, don't even bother contacting these people about their court date. Just get rid of these court dates. They were implementing a semi-legal status system for people that they wanted in the country to do the labor to support the laptop class.
Yeah, I have some concerns about due process specifically as it pertains to sending people to Seacoast.
This is where I turn into Darth Vader. I don't have any concerns.
If you're not a citizen,
I do.
bye.
I do think that I also have concerns with the fact that we have a ton of people that are here illegally and our immigration courts are totally backed up. My genuine wish, sincerest wish, is that there is a way to speed up that process for deportations. However, sending people to El Salvador to this prison that's not really
I love it.
run by us.
So I'm completely fine with sending people from El Salvador back to El Salvador.
Yes.
And what happens to them when they're in El Salvador is not my problem.
But if we're funding it, does it become our problem?
No, because we're getting them out of here. This is, and I've said this multiple times on the show, this is a creation of the Democrats and Joe Biden. It was intentional on their part. They used the Health and Human Services Department to move these people around the country in an effort to affect the census and affect congressional representation. They had people come in and they wanted to use these asylum seekers, which were illegal asylum seekers because they didn't go to port of entrance. They were coming over wherever they could get over. And as soon as they ran into a Border Patrol agent, they said they were seeking asylum. That's illegal. That means they go right back. This was a plan by the Democrat Party in an effort to install the Democrat Party as a permanent one-party system in the United States that disenfranchises millions of Americans, takes away all of their political power. These people deserve far worse than they're going to get. But the people that are here, and I'm talking about the politicians and the NGOs and the people in the administration that facilitated this, but the people that have been brought here, that have been helped by NGOs to come up over the Darien Gap through Mexico, all of those people need to go. Every single one that we can get rid of. And if there are mistakes made, those people that were in error can petition the government from somewhere else. This is not something that the American people should be punished with, because again, this is taking away political power from Americans born in America. It's taking that power away, using their own money to do it by the elected officials that they elected. This is not just a dereliction of duty. It is absolutely counter to the best interests of the American people, and I don't think that it counts as treason. I'm not sure what the exact term would be, but using the money of the American people in an effort to dilute the political power of the American people is abhorrent to anything that any American would agree with. The people that are here illegally need to go, and I don't care about due process. Send them home.
It's not just that either. I mean, it's not just the political power, which I assume you're talking about congressional districts, right?
Yes,
and
they're looking to redistrict, and they're also looking to turn purple states blue.
It's hugely problematic.
And that's that's a big problem too. But there's a lot of other issues as well, because Chuck Schumer said outright that America needs illegal immigrants in order to replace Americans because we have low birth rate. He said that in September of 2024. He said that in a press conference. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is what Chuck Schumer said, Democrat senator from New York. You had AOC out
Browning of America, the phrases, the thing. And then if you were a white person that said, "Oh, they're trying to replace us, you're a racist," they hit you with all of
you're like
the slur names.
demonetized on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. When they would say the exact same thing. There was times where Rachel Maddow,
like it and they say it, it's okay.
Yes,
And if you don't like
exactly.
it and you say it, then you're the problem.
100%.
You also had Jasmine Crockett out there saying that we need illegal immigrants to do all of these menial jobs. She said, and I quote, "We done picking cotton."
I was just
right.
So we want to create a second class
We
of
want to
citizen in
create a
America.
second class of
I don't know whether to
citizens
love or hate that woman.
with dodgy legal status who have to do these jobs.
Yeah.
And you also had, lest anyone forget, you had Barack Obama out there when he was doing his campaign for president, and he was quoting Cesar Chavez. Does everyone remember this? Si se puede. Remember Cesar Chavez? Cesar Chavez is a California labor organizer. He went out there into the strawberry fields, a lot of Mexicans picking strawberries. And what would happen is they were picking strawberries in the valleys, and the farmers would put pesticides out and herbicides out to protect the strawberries. All of those pesticides would roll down into the valley. The Mexicans would be picking it. They'd get sick. Not great. That's not good, right? So Cesar Chavez goes out there and he says, we need union, we need to organize, we need to become a union, we need to fight for the rights of workers so that they can go out and pick strawberries without getting sick. Okay, cool. Totally on board, pro-union, whatever. Chavez was entirely 100% opposed to illegal immigration. Why? Because it undercut American wages. It undercut the wages of the people that he was organizing. And these people came in and were used as strike busters, and then they would come in and take the work. So
they get thrown to the wolves,
right,
for sure, because they can't advocate for themselves.
Right. And they have no legal standing. Mm-hmm. So you have Democrats simultaneously sucking the teat of labor and gobbling up all of their money and undercutting labor and going against labor. It's no surprise that when we had the April 5th Hands Off rally and we had all the labor leaders out there talking, it's no surprise that every single one of those labor leaders were leaders of government unions. These were government workers that they are representing. They're not representing actual labor. The UAW wasn't out there. The Teamsters, who also represent a huge swath of hospitality, I think they weren't out there. Mm-hmm. That's not the Democrats are feeding us lines about si se puede and about labor and about workers, but they don't actually care. They just want someone to deliver their crap to their house so they can sit on their couch and look at their laptop and tap their fingernails or whatever else the hell it is they do.
I think a big portion of it is they believe that they're doing the right thing.
It's a moral thing because they have no God other than themselves. Yeah. And so if they think they're doing good, then they believe they're good people. And that's enough. I mean, these are people who do yoga and think that makes you a good person. That is ludicrous. That's just out of control.
It just makes you flexible. Maybe a little.
It's actually just demonic in general.
Maybe.
It's not even good.
But it doesn't make you a good person. Being vegan doesn't make you a good person. Neither does doing a nice bike ride. That doesn't make you good.
No, it doesn't.
It just, it makes you oxygenated.
Going back to due process for a second. He's from El Salvador.
Yes.
He comes here illegally. Mm-hmm. Forget whatever he did, right? If El Salvador wanted to extradite him back, right, and we had an extradite thing, we could do that. He doesn't need to hear a court. They clearly want to keep him. Mm-hmm. They clearly want to keep him. So why, if it's their citizen and they want him there, why do we need to go through this whole rigmarole to send him back when he doesn't belong here and his government wants him there?
What's interesting, too, is when they talk about the administrative error, right? They were talking about, he was sent back by mistake. What they mean by sent back by mistake is that he was sent to El Salvador, because in the original, I think it was the 2019 protective order, it said that he could get sent somewhere, but he shouldn't go to El Salvador because his mother was being extradited at her, not extradited.
But those gangs are gone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
gangs are gone.
He's with the
there is
gangs.
no threat anymore.
No,
they're
Lisa,
in the prison.
They sent him
Extorted.
to the same
His mother
place
was being
that the
extorted.
gangs are.
But you've seen that prison. You've seen inside of there. Nick Shirley did a great expose on it. Nobody's fighting in there. Nobody's going to kill him in there.
Okay, well,
it is so regimented in there, and there are no gangs to hurt him. They are all under so much control there. Have you seen the videos?
I've seen pictures. I haven't seen videos.
Oh no, go watch Nick Shirley's YouTube on it. Nothing's going to happen to him in there.
So I want to get back to the violence here in the U.S. And there's one thing that I saw in this kid's essay. It says, if these actions become normal, the government could arrest anyone and deport them to a prison in a foreign land without hope of redress for no reason.
Not true.
So first of all, legally, you're correct. It's not true legally. But honestly, everyone knows that if the government wants to do those things, they're gonna do them. right? So
They have a monopoly on force.
yeah, they have the monopoly on violence. We hope that we have the ability to use lawyers and the law and courts to prevent, not to prevent that, but to get us out of that situation. But if they want you, the government is just going to come take you, and you can. The evidence of that is the raids of people's homes over all kinds of different things. The fact that the government constantly violates the Fourth Amendment when it comes to civil asset forfeiture. I know you love that one.
Absolutely.
You know, the violations of the Second Amendment, the attempts to have they called them free speech zones on campuses where you weren't allowed to say whatever you wanted except for this specific little area. The government will do any number of things to violate your rights, and only
Well, was
we
that,
only
was
have
that
the hope.
government? Was that government or was that universities?
Those are mostly universities.
Yeah.
Oh, was
That
it?
fight
Okay, fair
speech
enough.
codes on campuses. 10 times out of 10, it was the university saying, we have free speech. And then it's like, but only in this alley.
So
And unless you're Jews.
yeah.
Yeah, fair enough on that particular point. But it's not like the government has any compunction about going to your house, kicking in your door, and pulling you out, or just killing you. There was a guy that the ATF killed over
in
some
Montana?
kind of, pardon me?
Montana.
I thought he was in Florida.
Oh, well, there's been a bunch.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, yeah,
to
there you go.
to my point, you know.
Utah, not
Okay.
Montana. Yeah.
You know, but the point being, the government has no compunction with going and ripping you out of your home for whatever reason they feel. So the idea that, oh, you know, we're protected now and then Donald Trump is going to make things dangerous. It's such a
No.
ridiculous.
In fact, there's a bigger microscope on what the Trump administration
Yes.
is doing. So I highly doubt that an American citizen is going to get ripped out of the country, deported to El Salvador, and then not be brought back. It did happen once to an American man, I think in 2012, who was mentally disabled, and he was like wandering around Mexico for a while, but they got him back.
Yeah.
You know?
And it
So
look,
it has happened before, but not under Donald Trump.
and fair enough, it sucks if it does, right? Fine. I agree. And I don't want to see that happen to innocent
Yeah.
people. But more than that, I don't want to see, you know, an endless train of illegals coming into the country, staying in the country. I don't want to see a government that is completely lawless. So this kid talking about, oh, all of these things that the Trump administration has done and is going to do, and questioning when is it acceptable for violence. I mean, this is something that me and Tim talk about, and I came up with a phrase that's, where's the off-ramp? If kids are writing stuff like that and people believe these things.
They really do believe it.
And
They
that's,
really do. And
you know?
it's like normal people. You know, you said the centrist, the self-proclaimed centrist was saying it's fine to do that to Elon Musk.
Wild.
we have
real.
breaking, we have breaking news.
what's that?
Breaking
Oh.
news.
We have breaking news. Yeah, Garcia, who we were just talking about, has it's a tweet from the president of El Salvador.
Oh, okay.
President Bukele. Kilmar Abrego Garcia miraculously risen from the death camps and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Hollen in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. Here's some photographs
not
of
the
this
photos.
guy.
Send it over to,
So
Literal
mad.
photo
looking for
shoot.
it.
First of all,
So
he
with the-
needs to get done for the Logan Act.
So with the Maryland senator, right?
Yes.
That's who he's with.
Yeah.
This guy, if I understand correctly, this guy has done absolutely nothing for any of the people in Baltimore that are victims of tons of violence,
Right.
And he then can go to El Salvador for a guy that's not even an American. So I agree with you, Lisa. He should definitely should go.
That's
The green
undermining
lines.
the foreign policy interests of the United States, and he should be arrested
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah,
You know what?
so-
That's what I want to see. I don't want to see people at UFC. I don't want to see Pam Bondi on Fox News every night. I want to see people arrested for things like this. I want to see as many lawsuits, as many anything that you can do. I want to see more.
We've talked about this actually.
More, way more.
There are. It is. There are a lot of
Now
people
here
that are
it's
that are
coming.
saying, oh, you know, there's a lot of people that are saying that, oh, the administration is not doing enough. They haven't done anything, et cetera, et cetera. And I am of the opinion that the administration is aware of the desires of their base.
Yeah.
And I believe that they're also working to do the things that the base wants. And the reason you haven't heard anything is because if they talk about it on the internet, it blows the investigation.
You could at least say there's stuff coming.
Literally, Dan Bongino did.
Okay.
There's a tweet that he said, look, just because you're not seeing
I
it
know.
doesn't mean that it's not happening. And you're the person I'm talking about, Lisa.
It's not. I just think we only have about a year and a half to get
100%.
No, you're
things
so
seriously done
Absolutely.
before midterms come. And
We have less than
it's
a
not-
year and a half. But yes.
It is not like they didn't have all the evidence for all these years for a lot of things. We've had numerous investigations. We've had numerous congressional hearings on these things. It's not like they didn't have it.
Well,
it's not hard to compile
This is something that
the
we
evidence.
also talked about, the fact that Trump has removed people's clearances. Those are moves that indicate something is happening.
getting there.
So again,
I'm a little impatient because
Yeah.
I've been let down so many times and seen nothing happen
Yeah.
and then be completely feckless. And I'm just hoping that that's not the case.
the Epstein files, I think, definitely caused
that was
the
a
mistrust.
terrible.
That was a
such
bad move.
Terrible.
Really bad
move.
rollout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not great.
I think there's a good chance the Epstein files don't exist.
Yeah.
Fair.
Anymore.
Yeah. Well, also, it was analog. These were all analog files. So, to the extent that they do exist, they were probably drowned in some subway flood in Brooklyn years ago.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go on to this story from the Post Millennial. Breaking: Carmela Anthony's reps call police on Austin Metcalf's father for attending press conference after his boy was stabbed to death. From the Post Millennial, representatives for Carmelo Anthony in his murder case in the killing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf called the police on Metcalf's father for showing up to a Thursday press conference that they were holding. According to ABC8, the Next Generation Action Network, which is a Dallas-based activist group that has taken on the role of publicly defending Anthony, called the police and asked Jeff Metcalf to be removed from the scene. Anthony was released from jail and placed under house arrest after being charged with the murder of Austin Metcalf. Anthony admitted to stabbing Metcalf at a track meet. According to police, he has claimed self-defense in the case and has garnered national media attention. I don't think you could possibly make a worse move. This man, whose son is dead at the hands of the defendant here, who also said, look, I don't want to see this turned into a racial thing. I want, he was looking for the best way to handle it that he could, with the least malice and the most charity. And then he shows up here and they decide they're going to kick him out.
He was probably going to be nice.
What's this
He was
video?
probably going to make amends. That seems like what his whole MO has been anyway. This was just totally disgusting.
Libby, what's this video here? Is this just him being walked out?
Yeah, we should watch it.
Dude, this was why you can't be charitable. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the police took
It's
him out.
disgusting how they're treating this guy's dad. He said it was disrespectful for him to show up. Do you have a clip of that?
How about it's disrespectful that his son stabbed somebody?
It's disrespectful that they're bringing out this Dominique Alexander guy who's trying to cosplay as a civil rights leader over a murder case.
Some old weird stuff with this guy.
Yes. So I was looking into him. He, there was some case where he was babysitting his girlfriend's toddler and the kid ended up sustaining a bunch of injuries and he admitted to shaking the baby.
Oh, that's not good.
He also was, his girlfriend reported him for domestic assault. He's been
Always the bottom of the barrel.
thrown in jail.
And this is the
over
representative
forgery.
for the Carmelo
This is-
Anthony's family.
Yeah. So this guy is the last person I would bring in if I'm trying to prove to everyone that my son is nonviolent and also credible. Like you bring in a guy with a history of violence who's, gone to jail over forgery. I'm sorry.
And to
What?
that point, the Post Millennial reports Carmela Anthony's rep blames Frisco School District weather for fatal stabbing death of Austin Metcalf. This guy is gonna botch this so bad that even though I didn't think that Carmelo Anthony was going to get the death penalty, I think that he might end up getting the death penalty because of his poor representation. Like, I assumed he's probably would get 25 years.
No, the death penalty was taken off the table.
He's
Oh, was it?
17. He can't.
Oh,
He
okay.
can't have it. He can.
So
have,
he's going to end up in jail for life then because of this.
well, life with
in
the
prison
possibility
was
of
also
parole.
taken off the table.
Yeah, he can. Well, he can have life with the possibility of parole. They can
Yeah.
give him that, but they can't give him life without the possibility of parole.
Yeah, they're
well,
playing
with this kind of
of his age.
representation,
totally the wrong way.
I mean,
But yeah, they kicked him out, and then this guy was also, the representative was also talking about how the weather was to blame
yeah.
for the attack.
Did you write this piece?
No.
No. All right. So from the Post Millennial, a representative for Carmelo Anthony placed blame on the Frisco Independent School District, as well as the weather, for the murder suspect stabbing Austin Metcalf to death at a district track meet earlier this month. While Dominique Alexander was speaking to reporters on Thursday, he said that Frisco ISD is trying to push off the blame because the school district isn't taking steps to expel Anthony, insinuating that the school district was to blame for the stabbing. He then added, "What I have not heard the media say, as many media outlets asked us what went on, I'm trying to find how many of y'all have asked the superintendent on one of these board of trustees, why didn't you cancel or postpone with weather in that magnitude? You couldn't have a track meet in the rain or thunderstorms or clouds."
Oh,
Let me
yes,
tell you,
the rain
I
defense.
had a
Hold on.
call me.
Hold on. It gets a little better. Y'all are the media. Ask your journalist, your weather journalist, how the weather was that day and that time. Y'all do that research. Because a person who is the administrator of your children, you are responsible for the safety of the children. And so it seems that Frisco ISD is trying to push this off by making this decision that they do not have to make, he said, in reference to Anthony getting expelled. This is insane. Okay, to blame the weather for behavior. And this
Wait
is
till the
something-
video comes out.
and
Well,
this
I
is
think
something that I
probably
have
they
a
need
real
metal
bad problem
detectors,
with.
right?
People, especially people on the left in the United States, when it comes to actions, they tend to look for any other reason aside from the individual that acted. Right, and I actually went through this last night. You see it with some international issues as well. With the Ukraine war, it's not Putin's fault. It's because of the U.S. or because of the Ukraine. In Israel, it's not the Hamas's fault. It's Israel's fault. The idea that the people that actually carry out the violence aren't to blame, that they're victims somehow, that's something the left does all the time. And you heard about it. I mean, Solzhenitsyn wrote about it in the Gulag Archipelago. It would, if you're a normal person and you have a knife, well, you're the bad guy. But if there's a criminal that has a knife and uses it, well, he's a criminal. He didn't end. He ended up there, because of circumstance, etc. So the left is constantly making excuses for people that have the ability to make decisions on their own, that have agency. And in this case, it's no different.
I want to go back to that in a minute, but I just want to talk about the rain because I talked to somebody, a whistleblower called me about this when they said there was no video. And somebody told me about the video that they watched, and this is verified. So I verified my source. Anyway, he wasn't just running to get out of the rain. He didn't just jump into a tent to get out of the rain. He walked past one tent. He walked past another tent. He walked up the bleachers, back down the bleachers, around Metcalf's tent, and then sat in his tent. And so it's not like this, you'll see when the video comes out, but it is not like he was just dodging in a tent to get out of the rain like they're trying to make it seem. That's just not true. So wait to see that. But then in the meantime, you can go
I
finish.
just still
with the
don't
rest.
understand how this escalated to a knife getting pulled and someone
It's this
dying.
culture.
Like,
It's
it's
this disrespecting
unbelievable.
He brought the
culture.
knife on purpose. He brought the knife clearly on purpose with the intent to
Yeah.
use it. And as soon as he was picked up afterwards, he said, "No, I did this."
I am interested in seeing what kind of
I
knife.
wonder if he
Yeah.
was intending to kill him or if he was just intending to stab him. But he stabbed him right in the
He
heart.
stabbed him in the chest. Yeah.
It is just the culture that says, you dissed me, you disrespected me, you told me to leave, you embarrassed me, you pushed me, you deserve to die. That is becoming more and more prevalent, like I've said a million times, and nobody seems to care or notice or want to talk about it.
See, I don't think that it's. I mean, maybe it is becoming more and more prevalent, but I don't feel like it's new. I remember back. When
It's at this level, it is.
I remember back when I was a kid, you would hear stories about people getting killed for their Jordans.
Yeah, of course.
So it's not. So I don't think that it doesn't happen.
No,
or it hasn't happened.
It is just, I promise, I'm going to send you a whole thing. When we get done, I'm going to send you tons of stories and in order. But it is to a different level. If you look at right now, just Google like how
I'm busy right now.
Oh well, I forgot you can't multitask. But like if you really look up like how many teens are dying from shooting and violent deaths like that, the numbers are skyrocketing like at an abnormal level.
Okay. Well, I don't think you're wrong. I just
What do you think it is? There's just more people.
no, I know. I think that it's
Godless.
it's probably more.
Directionless
It's probably is more intense
Oh, wow.
now than it's been. Go ahead.
Youth gun deaths in the U.S. have surged 50% since 2019.
Yeah.
It's 20. Is that
This is 2023.
Yeah. It's been brutal.
Yeah, it's on the rise.
so? Is that because of I was under the impression that there was a lot of that because of COVID,
No.
and then the
It definitely
it has-
jumped in 2020
Because they were buying guns with their stimulus checks.
yeah,
admittedly.
but like it's remained consistent
Okay.
since. So
All right, so Serge just brought this up for me. In 2020, the homicide rate for youth under 18 in the U.S. was 37% below the peak in 1993. 1993 is when I was talking about, because that's when I was 18. That's when all of gangster rap really kind of exploded onto the scene. So, this kind of does kind of give a point to my point of back in the 90s. There was considerable violence, and we really have gone through a significant decline in violence in the past 30 years up until 2020. But it goes on. But still, in 2020, the homicide rate for youth under 18 in the U.S. was 37% lower than the peak in 1993, but still saw 1,777 victims. This age group represents about 8% of all murder victims that year. Globally, approximately 193,000 homicides occur among those aged 15 to 29 each year, making it the leading cause of death for this age group, according to the WHO. So, yeah, but I don't disagree with you. I don't think that you're wrong about the increase since 2020. That's something that we've actually heard multiple times, those stats, because COVID and because of apparently maybe the stimulus checks. I'm not. Go ahead.
Here we go. Here's another one. Trends in juvenile offending. What you need to know. Homicides perpetrated by juveniles jumped 65%. Like, here, I'll send it to Serge.
Sure.
But like it's literally out of control. You don't have to, you can look it up later, but like I'm gonna send it to you.
Like I said, I don't disbelieve you, but like it's my sense that
My kids
things
have
had
to hang
been
around with those kids. You know what I mean?
it's-
Like, or be at the park when they go shoot 7 of them.
Well, again, you live in
I know,
the
it's
city
disgusting.
too.
I live in Atlanta, so I see a lot.
You live
of this
in
too.
Atlanta?
I live in
On
Atlanta,
purpose?
and I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Ooh.
Shout out to Louisiana.
right.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really, really bad. And I think this goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about how young people don't value human life anymore. But in general, I think the rules of engagement have deteriorated across society. Like, people think that violence, theft, murder, any form of
Shoplifting,
violence,
everything.
Yeah, they believe that it's an acceptable form of engaging with others in
Carjacking.
society. Now that we've passed that point,
See,
what now?
but
how do you put the cat back in the bag?
okay, like you're all kids, and so I know that I am dating myself here, but crime did peak in the 90s, and for definitely all of your life and most of your life. And Libby's a little younger than me.
I was kind of young in 93, but yeah.
You were definitely kind of young. But the point that I'm making is crime has been going down, right?
Right.
So there's and granted there has been there was definitely a decrease in the death rate. Partially because of, the ability of people to call from cell phones and stuff like that you can call for help and things like that affected how many people actually got, how many assaults turned into murders.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you get shot and you can call the cops, they come and help you out, most of the time. And so
Response times have really gone down in the past.
Pardon me?
Response times have really gone down.
have gone down. And also, to be honest with you, the ability to deal with traumatic injury is much greater now, because specifically because of the war on terror. They learned a lot from all the dudes getting shot and stuff in the war on terror in the early aughts. But until 2020. It had been going down. So this is not something that we've experienced a lot. you know, or has you guys haven't.
First time in my life.
Yeah, like I remember when I was young, you know, it was
Even like 12 and 13-year-olds?
What?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't remember
during
12 and 13-year-olds shooting
during
each other
yeah,
ever.
Oh,
during,
yeah, that was happening.
absolutely, absolutely.
don't
I mean, look,
remember
drugs, gangs, and have always
Crack was a
used
whole- But
young
These aren't
people.
even about drugs.
It doesn't matter.
Well, it could be about whatever.
This is
you
what I'm
want.
saying. There's like this, it's across the board, especially on the left. It's especially with young people, especially with young black people too. But it is something in our society that says there's human life doesn't matter if we don't like you.
That was something. That was a phenomenon that this is not new. So I'm not saying that it might. It seems more intense now. But again, in the '90s, the gang wars and all of the stuff that you heard when it came to, you know, Southern California rap, right? Like all the rap that I grew up listening to, like all the stuff like Dr. Dre, like they were talking about, I'll kill you just for looking at me the wrong way. That kind of attitude is
it's on a
something.
resurgence then.
Didn't MS-13 form in that environment?
Yes.
Like within that
Yeah,
context?
probably. I think so.
MS-13
But I mean,
formed in
look,
prisons.
there
In prisons?
Yeah, MS-13 was formed in, I believe, a California prison.
you can get shot for wearing Crips and Bloods were killing each other in the 90s, and you could get shot for wearing the wrong color in the wrong part of town. Like that was a real thing in the 90s. So I not that I want to say you're wrong, but I don't think that it's such a new phenomenon. I think that it's an upsurge since 2020.
What about the
an
political
upsurge
violence?
Well, the political violence is
new?
different. Political violence.
don't think it's
Actually,
different.
no,
I don't
that's
think
not
it's
different either. Because there were like Congress got bombed in the 80s. There
was the
were
Weather
there
Underground in the
in the 70s. We looked
There
into
were
it, and there was
anarchists. William McKinley was shot by an
2,500 bombings in 1971 to 72.
It was Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that was in the 90s.
That was
too.
90s.
You
So
don't think it's an overall decline in like morality across the board? Like that they both don't have the same underlying
I think that's been
principles?
going on for a long time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that, but I think it's getting worse over time. And I don't remember politics, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago being this heated, this violent.
Politics has gotten pretty
Yeah.
extreme. I would say
Politics-
that level of divisiveness.
yeah, I agree about the politics has real the level of divisiveness has increased significantly. There was a time where in the U.S. you could say, I don't really pay attention to politics. And there wasn't the stigma of you being a bad person for it, right? Because nowadays, if you say, I don't really pay attention to politics, people are like, how can you not pay attention when there's a femicide going on in the Congo?
Oh, even
You know what
more,
I mean?
they know you voted for Trump. If you
Oh
do
yeah,
that.
that's another one. Exactly. If it's like a Kafka trap. You know, if you say, "Oh, I don't pay attention," well, then that's confirmation that you're a Trumper or whatever.
Yeah.
So I do think that that's a new thing, but I don't think that it's that politics is what is that? What?
No, then.
Anyways, all right.
I
So
was passing notes earlier.
yeah, we're going to go to this story, which is actually some good news. The U.S. is withdrawing hundreds of troops from Syria, from the New York Times. The end of the Assad era has reduced some threats, but the Islamic State has shown renewed strength in the country. Well, that's because the Islamic State is now the
They're in
people
charge.
in charge.
Horrifying.
They won.
They're in charge. I think it's a good idea to get Americans out of harm's way over there.
Sure.
Yeah.
The United States has started drawing down hundreds of troops from northern Syria in a reflection of the shifting security environment in the country since the fall of President Bashar al-Assad in December, but also a move that carries risk. The military is shuttering 3 of its 8 small operating bases in the country's northeast, reducing troop levels to about 1,400 from 2,000, two senior U.S. officials said. The bases are Mission Support Site Green Village, MSS Euphrates, and a third much smaller facility. After 60 days, the officials said, American commanders will assess whether to make additional cuts. Commanders have recommended keeping at least 500 U.S. troops in Syria, one official has said. Now, these guys that are in Syria, first of all, right, this is a direct contradiction to what Kamala Harris said on the campaign trail, that there was no U.S. forces in other countries. She
say that?
Oh yeah. Not only did she say that,
Okay, that's,
but
like,
there
so
were
obviously
guys.
a lie.
Yeah, I mean it was
What?
completely BS. But there were no U.S. forces in war zones. I think was the actual.
That was a funny video. And they're like, where are we right now?
And there was a video made by some servicemen. They're just sitting there watching, and they're like, "Well, where the hell are we?" Because they were overseas. So, but anyways, this kind of pullout by the United States. These guys that are getting pulled out, like these were not, regular army. These guys were combat. They were combat guys. They were probably most likely Green Berets working with local forces, or maybe they were Delta guys doing direct action. And now that they're not, now that Assad's not in charge, I don't know what they would be doing, because the current government there is terrorists. They were formerly ISIS. These guys are as bad as they come. This is not an upgrade. Bashar al-Assad, I know there are people that say, oh, well, Bashar al-Assad, he was actually much, much better. He protected Christians and blah, blah, blah. And there is some truth to that, but he wasn't better because he was brutal and stuff. So it's just different, say
He at least protected the Christians.
Yeah, but new boss, same as the old boss. Like this. So now they're going after Christians, but they were going after everybody before too. But it is good to see that the Trump administration still wants to do more to pull back the U.S. forces from war zones. What's this? President Trump, however, has expressed deep skepticism about keeping any U.S. troops in the country. At least for now, the reductions that started on Thursday are based on ground commanders' recommendations to close and consolidate bases, and were approved by the Pentagon and its Central Command. The official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss operational matters. So, again, it's a good thing that the U.S. is getting out of, war zones, but these, like the guys that are over there, they're not dudes that are there because they don't want to be, right? Again, when I say that they're Green Berets, they're the kind of like tier 1 kind of dudes. They're tier 1 guys and probably support. And like those guys are the kind of guys that are like, yo, put me in, coach. I joined the army because I want to fight bad guys. Point me at the bad guys.
Well, what are they doing there right now? Do we have any idea?
No, and I think that's part of their job.
Intelligence gathering going on and whatever, but
that's
bring them home.
We've had people in Syria for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so do you guys have a sense that it's a good thing or a bad thing? What's your opinion?
I mean, it really depends on what your perspective is, right? What's your worldview? So it's a good thing if you think that the United States should withdraw its tendrils from all over the world and come back home and bring our troops back home and be a little bit more America focused and a little more isolationist. And it's a bad thing if you are a globalist who really wants to have America's reach in every corner of the world.
Do you think that is the sense of a globalist, or do you think that that's the sense of someone that believes that the United States should have an expansive military footprint? Because I think that there is a difference between.
I think that the globalists and the warmongers have a lot of similarities. They want that reach. They want that. They want the hard power and they want the soft power to go along with it. So like, for example, if you're going to do soft power operations in Syria or in the Middle East, you need a place to do them from, right? And you need to have a little hard power there to back it up. So I think those two things go hand in hand.
What do you think, Lisa?
I think if I say what I really think, that I'll get the show taken down. But I'm definitely not in favor of sending any money over there or putting troops on the ground in excess or anything like that. I wouldn't spend a single dime over there anymore. However,
you can't say stuff like that. The chat goes wild.
However, I think, well, I really don't want any money over there at all. Like, and I don't care where, and even Israel, I don't want to give my money over there either. But I really think people wildly underestimate the threat of Islam, and they do it because of whatever reason that they wildly underestimate it. They definitely, I've been doing that kind of stuff in England and in Brussels and all over the place. Wildly underestimate how that can totally ruin your entire country. If I want them all over there, let them all fight each other. Let them all kill each other. I don't care, right? But I definitely think we should at least have some ears on the ground so that if they're coming over here or they're planning an attack, that we can. What I would do is just like boop on the whole region. But that's me.
So what do you?
What is
on the whole region?
I think we can take from context what boop means.
Boop. God, what do you?
Would you support giving asylum to Christians?
Yeah. No, I probably wouldn't. No. Actually, no.
So it seems
They
to be
could
the
go to-
only reason why we
they
would
could
be
go.
there is
They
to
can go to
protect
Christian.
them.
They can go to
Now they have no
neighboring
protections.
Christian countries near them. I don't want anybody else in here.
Yeah.
I want no one else in here. I think that we should stop immigration for the next 10 years. No more people in here. We're done. We're full. We're full.
I actually,
There's no room at the inn.
We're done.
I just think there are no neighboring Christian countries, and that's the problem. There's not really any neighboring
Well,
Christian
okay, so-
countries that are.
I mean,
Israel would
is
really be
only
the best
friendly
bet.
Okay, keep
place,
going though.
you
Keep
know?
going. Is there anywhere closer than us? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's
But
Europe.
they also
Europe's not
don't wanna
Christian
accept
countries
anyone else.
anymore.
Yeah, true.
It used to
They're
be.
Poland. The only place they can go is
Hungary.
Poland.
Also
And good for
Hungary.
Poland. Poland has the
Hungary.
right idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can go somewhere else. Don't come here.
So okay, so you made a remark about about intel, right? A lot of times, it's my understanding that if you don't have people, human intelligence, then you really don't have much. Now
Correct.
you can do if I understand correctly, you can do a lot with signal intelligence. That's monitoring phone calls, monitoring the internet, but the real payoff comes from human intelligence. That's people that know people on the ground. If you don't have people on the ground, and this was what we ran into after 9/11, we didn't have intelligence in Afghanistan. We didn't have a lot of intelligent
Lost
assets.
a lot of that, yeah.
In all kinds of places. Do you and because you specifically mentioned the threat of Islam, do you think, or like global jihad kind of Islam,
It's coming.
do you think that the U.S. is better served by having those kind of assets, or do you think that it should be a full pullback? And I think that I want to go to everybody with that.
I definitely don't. I don't necessarily think boots on the ground, but I definitely think you should have people there.
well, there are going to be sandals on the ground.
Yeah, I think that there should be sandals on the ground. Some sandals on the
Well, the
ground.
point that I'm making is
Just
it's
to
going
just
to be.
to prevent threats
Some
that would be on the homeland. Like, like we don't need
Yeah.
to manipulate their governments or deal with that. They want to, if they want to, hurt each other, fine, right? Like, go ahead, you go do your thing, fight each other. Who cares? But the minute that it comes here,
Yeah.
then that's where I have an issue. And so we should have some intelligence on the ground to get some intel for that.
Libby, what do you think?
I'm not sure. I think it makes sense to have intelligence operations, but I really don't know what that looks like.
Well, because as soon as
And we were operating at a base in Syria
Yeah.
that was controlled by, I think, the Assad regime previously. So once Assad fell, we no longer have any protection in that area, and we certainly don't have
we
any.
did. We have an aircraft carrier
Well,
in
sure.
the
I mean, we have
Mediterranean.
that, but we don't have. We are certainly not in the good graces of the government there.
No,
Right.
but they don't have an air force, and
Right.
again,
Sure, but now you're talking about escalation.
no, well, only if they decide they're going to attack the
Right.
Americans.
So
But-
then what? I mean, we lost people in Jordan last year at a base there, and that was a pretty weird operation where we had put out drones, and when we brought the drones back,
they followed the drones.
they followed the drones back so that our guys couldn't detect them, and then they killed some people. Like I think it was 3 engineers from Georgia
Yep.
who got killed in that attack. But foreign policy is definitely not my strong suit.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Same here.
Yeah.
That foreign policy is not really my thing. I like to say that my brain just kind of when we're talking about geopolitics. But I will say, I think it's fair that we should have intelligence operations over there. It's just
So that
let's pull our troops out of the region, but
that impulse or that idea actually flies in the face of what most libertarians think, because everyone when it's one thing to say intelligence, right? But then once you say the CIA, then libertarians are like, whoa, that's what intelligence is. It is CIA. It is.
well, I don't want to be over there doing regime change and using USAID.
Have you heard,
NGOs to,
you've heard Mike Ben's talk, right?
Yes.
Okay, the way
Ben's
that
is
he
great.
describes it, I think, is extremely useful. Regime change happens by the military. CIA doesn't do regime change. As much as people want to think they do, they'll do influence operations. They will do things like trying to help people that are friendly to the United States gain influence and stuff. But if they want to do regime change, it takes the U.S. military, because the U.S. military has to actually usually destroy the military of the existing unless you can get
I'm pretty sure CIA has some. operations
So
that
you're
are.
talking about CIA ground branch, but they work in conjunction with Green Berets, and they would work in conjunction with possibly with Delta, but definitely with Green Berets. Green Berets go in and they teach local assets how to fight. CIA ground branch would be the guys that are working.
They definitely had like secret operations in the CIA where they were like physically harming people.
So but that's not large scale kind of stuff. Like when you talk about Maxog V,
somebody.
but if you're talking about like Maxog V, right? The guys that were in Cambodia,
Right.
in Vietnam, they were in the army. They weren't CIA guys. They were working in conjunction with CIA, but they were the army. They had some, like CIA did like the plane flights and stuff, but they were military trained and stuff like that. But that's the thing. You run into whether it be just human intelligence and stuff like that, but you run into the people that are like, whoa, CIA shouldn't be in there. Well, that's what CIA does.
Yeah.
Intelligence, So
I don't think we should be, trying to whip up support for or against certain people in power over there. I just think we should monitor for threats against the United States. I think that's fairly consistent. We should defend ourselves.
I have nothing else to say. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I said a lot. I said
okay.
poop.
There's one more thing that I want to talk about real quick. Where is it? So we didn't really talk about this one here. From the post-millennial, Trump opted for talks with Iran on nuclear deal rather than Israeli-led strikes, which again, points to the idea that Donald Trump is actually pro-peace. And I think that's something that we all kind of agree on is good. From the post-millennial, President Donald Trump opted to engage in diplomatic talks with Iran on a nuclear deal rather than go ahead with Israeli proposed strikes on the nation. Officials with the Trump administration who spoke with the New York Times indicated that while Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu was interested in attacking Iran, Trump told him during their White House meeting that he would instead begin talks. Netanyahu had other ideas on how to deal with Iran, namely engaging U.S. military support to attack Iran, and his timeline was to start the whole thing as soon as May. Trump, the Times reported, made his decision after months of internal debate over whether to pursue diplomacy or support Israel in seeking to set back Iran's ability to build a bomb at a time when Iran has been weakened militarily and economically. So are we kind of all in agreement that that's the proper course of action, or?
Yeah. I mean, when he makes decisions like this, I feel vindicated and I vote for him, and I'm sure a lot of other libertarians, that's the scary word. I'm sure a lot of other libertarians feel the same way,
I agree. I like this. I like this.
Okay.
I don't want to be like striking Iran. I do think though that we should have it like before, like I said, with the POSO thing, like it should be, they should think in their mind that it's certainly an option. Like, I think part of the reason that there were no new wars and things like that under Trump is because everybody was scared of him, thinking that he's so unhinged that he may push that button at any time. And that really protected us. So if they're looking at us and saying, well, the American people will never support them bombing Iran, right? Okay, well, then that doesn't give him as much leverage as he needs. I don't want him to do it, right? But I also want it to be at least a negotiating tool in his belt to use. But no, I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be fruitful in the end, and I think it's not our issue.
So when you say you don't think it'd be fruitful, do you think that are you saying that the United States wouldn't be able to stop Iran's nuclear program?
No, I just think that like nobody wants like mass destruction here, like it's Israel's problem more than it's our problem.
It's not just Israel's problem.
I think it's probably
it's Saudi Arabia's problem too. Remember,
but
Saudi Arabia,
but that's not our problem.
Saudi Arabia
doesn't have to be our
Saudi
problem.
Arabia is a Sunni Muslims, and Iran Shia Muslims. They don't like each other at all. And as much as Israel gets the focus, there are a lot of people in Saudi Arabia that are like,
100%.
yo, if you go and strike Iran, we will be pumped.
Yeah, but
Iran backs. Which one is Iran? Sunni or Shia? You
Shia.
just said it. It's right. So Iran also backs the Sunnis when it's the Houthis or the Hezbollah or
Houthis
Hamas
are
or whatever.
Shia.
Right. But they also back Hamas, and Hamas is not Shia, or whichever one Iran isn't. Iran doesn't care who they're backing, so long as they're Muslim going after Israel.
When it comes to going after
When it comes
Israel.
to going after Israel. So and when it comes to this, I think that it makes a lot of sense for the president to be engaging in talks with Iran to try and limit their nuclear program. This has been a problem for America for years and years. And it's a problem because if Iran has a nuclear weapon, then suddenly they're attacking our only ally in the region, and then suddenly America's on the hook. And
I don't know
also,
that- again, I really do think that the Saudis are an ally. Are they not?
well, they are
As
kind
much as they
of,
can
but
be.
they're also, not a democracy. Israel's the only democracy
If
in,
they-
in the Middle East.
If they could get rid of if they could get rid of infidels all across the board, most of them would. So they're not really our friends. They're kind of our friends when they need us until it gets to the point where they've taken over so much control of, I don't know, say all of Europe, because we got every mayor in freaking England, and they finally take over it all, that they're in control of these nuclear arsenals and everywhere else, and then they will not be our friend anymore.
Okay. You were going to say, Libby?
Yeah, I think that the issue of nuclears, Iran's nuclear situation has been a problem for a really long time. I think it really behooves us, and it's, it really behooves us to try and keep that whole situation in line. So to the extent that Trump can do that, I think that's great. And I don't think backing Israel in attacks on Iran would attain the goal that he's looking for.
Agreed.
So
It's my sense that Israel wants the U.S. to do it.
well,
but
that's
they're
what
completely-
Netanyahu was saying.
Yeah.
They were not going to go ahead and do this without the backing of the U.S. because
Now-
they would not only need the U.S.'s, they said that they would need the U.S.'s help because they would need Iran to know that the U.S. had their back. And so without the U.S. having Israel's back, they're not going to do something like this.
It's my sense that Israel wants the U.S. to back them and say, hey, we'll make sure that should they strike back or something, we're going to do something. But at the same time, I also think that Israel has made it very clear that they will go move on their own if they believe that Iran
would be a big
gets
mistake.
a nuclear weapon. Well, I mean, look, I'm not sure as to what Iran will do with a nuclear weapon, but they allude to the idea that they would nuke Israel if they had one, and Israel is 100% has made it completely clear. Well, they have made it completely clear that they will use the nuclear weapon that they may or may not have, because they've never come out and said they have nuclear weapons, but they've made it clear that they will strike Iran before they will allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Now, the question that I'm asking is, do you guys think that Israel is bluffing, or do you think that Israel will act independently of the United States should they believe that Iran is on the cusp of getting a nuclear weapon?
A lot of people are turning on Israel, and if they do not have the U.S. support, they will not do it.
Yeah.
You think that they wouldn't? Libby, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go ahead without American support.
Even if that means Iran gets a nuclear weapon?
I don't think that America will let Iran get a nuclear weapon. So
I agree.
The U.S. has Israel's back all the way up to that point.
So
You know?
it's the consensus here that the United States
you
will
think,
act to.
Yeah.
We're women. What do you think?
Well, I'm asking
Yeah,
you a question.
Oh my goodness.
Foreign policy.
But the point. So I just want to make sure I understand you. It's your consensus that the United States is likely to act before Israel needs to, right? Because I think everyone here kind of says yes. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, right?
No. I don't want anybody else to have nuclear weapons.
No.
Like nobody. We're done. We should be done with that.
Well, that's why we had the Budapest memo
like
in 19
so
what was it,
Cold
92
War,
to get rid of the nuclear weapons in Ukraine.
yeah.
And
You can do
that
a lot
didn't
more damage.
that didn't actually go so great for us as it turns out.
No,
No.
clearly.
So,
But
yeah.
all right, I think we're going to go to super chats, right?
Yeah.
It's about that time.
You're gonna horrify me.
I don't think they will. I think they'll be fine. All right, so smash the like
It's a
button.
little behaved today, right?
you were just the right amount of misbehaved.
I was a little more behaved than usual.
Yeah, smash the like button, share the show with your friends, go to rumble.com and become a member, and you can join us in the after show. But right now, we're going to go ahead and read your super chats. And we're going to start with, let's see, Konashi says first. Yes, you are. Shane H. Wilder says, our dear Jessica, Timcast graphical extraordinaire's dog Tank is undergoing intestinal surgery. There is a give, send, go at Save Tank the Dog. So if you have some money and you could give a little bit to the give, send, go to Save Tank.
And he had some complications too overnight, so it's pretty touch and go. So yeah, it's not just like surgery; it's like he's pretty touch and go. So
yeah, so if
really
if you can help, we would appreciate it. Let's see. Dave Bricken says, happy belated born on Phil. Congratulations on your soon to be child. May she grow strong and intelligent. He will be an asset to society, I'm sure. And I thank you very much for the kudos.
You're going to be an old man dad.
I'm comfortable with that.
let me tell you how exhausting it is. The older you get, the more tired you get.
Well, look, I'm the age that I am,
You're
and I
pretty
can't do
fit,
anything about it.
You're active.
I had my son when I was old, and
I mean,
now
look,
I'm way older.
I was married
I'm
once,
old
and
now, I'm
I was
tired.
married once, and my ex-wife couldn't have kids. So this is what I got.
Just have tons of babies. Who cares? As many as possible.
That's what I'm
Have another one next year.
All right, so Hitchhiker of Texas says, way to go Phil, way to go Phil on the panel. Thank you very much. Angry Marsupial says, Phil, no offense, you were objectively the least attractive person on the panel tonight. I'd say you're the most aggressive, but Philly and all. See? And yes, you're right. I am the least attractive.
I'm working on it. I keep saying that I'm trying to work on being less masculine, more feminine. It just comes out.
I completely understand.
It just
the
comes
struggle.
out.
Yeah.
It's very.
I just really figure if I do enough yoga, then I'll get right with
struggle,
We'll be
man.
so zen and we'll be such good people.
Trying.
The effing saddle tramp says, I hope Phil is having fun on Ovary Cast. Oh, let's see here. Bike Curious George, my wife and I are having our first child, a girl, on the way, and we haven't been able to agree on any names. Seeing Libby cast earlier, I proposed the name Libby to my wife, and she loves it. I hope Libby doesn't mind.
Oh, that's so sweet. My mom wanted to name me Libby, and my dad was against it, and he said she needs a real name. So my actual name is Elizabeth.
I love the name Elizabeth, but it's part of my first
everyone
name.
calls me
Lisa Elizabeth.
Yeah, everyone calls me Libby and has for my whole life, but
Libby's great.
I can always have an official name if I need to.
Mini Matt 400 says, hey, Phil, welcome to the Viewcast tonight. Loving this discourse in actuality.
I knew they were going to say
Wait,
something
which one
about
of us
being
is
all women.
Whoopi Goldberg?
Oh, none
at
of you.
Phil
None
looking
of you.
right at me.
None of you. None of you are Whoopi Goldberg.
It's Phil.
No. Wait a minute. What? Here I am being nice. And Libby just tosses me right under the bus. Let's see here. Big Hookah PGH says, don't make the black kids angry by Colin Flaherty. Explains why this is happening. Also, Scott Adams is right. That's a little spicy, huh?
Ooh.
That's probably my fault.
Well, you draw in the undesirables, apparently.
But I just talk truth stuff.
Hitchhiker Fox says there is no intelligence in the intelligent community. I don't know if I'd agree with that.
There's some pretty smart people in the intelligence.
They get some big
community.
brains. Let's see here. Not a Bot says we already know more about this shooter than the Elephant Man shooter who almost got Trump in Pennsylvania. That is true. It's kind of funny that he calls him the Elephant Man shooter because he kind of did look like the Elephant Man. Do you guys have any sense that
That was a really weird op, and it was a definite inside job. I don't care.
Something was weird about that. Yeah, or else we'd know more about it.
They'd wiped his whole house, it was all clean and sterilized, and there was missing silverware. It's very bizarre.
It's giving the Vegas shooter from years ago, where they just
And no one
it's
knows
like no
anything about that
follow up. Are
still.
you kidding?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is weird.
They don't want
Wasn't
us to
that
know
like
something.
the deadliest mass shooting in American history? The
Yeah.
Vegas one.
Yeah.
We had nothing about that either.
No. I
Suspicious.
CIA.
I don't.
This is what the CIA should not be doing.
Definitely not. I don't think CIA did that. But
I think they have a hand in everything.
oh, I don't.
I think they have a hand in a way more than you think we do.
Clowns in action? No.
Okay.
No. They're far more it's my opinion that they are far more the Bay of Pigs CIA
True.
than the CIA that people imagine does amazing things.
Yeah.
Right? Like it takes a lot to to have successful operations that people think they do. They're definitely look at how many times they tried to kill Castro. And blew it every time.
Over and over and over again.
Over and over and over and over.
They also tried to shoot JFK a number of times too, and they finally got it right.
I don't know that that's true either.
There was reports of other attempts prior to that in multiple locations in Florida, in Chicago, and other places.
Well, maybe, but so I have no sense of that because I haven't heard that. That's the first time I've ever heard it.
I went on a rabbit hole down that too recently. So
no, like I said,
reading
clowns
a lot of books. I've been down rabbit holes. I'm being the stay-at-home mom thing. It's like
think about how they behaved regarding Castro, who was only 90 miles off. It's communists in our backyard. They had nuclear weapons aimed at DC. Like there was as much motivation as you could possibly get for the CIA to take Castro out, and he just lived forever, and there's still communists down there. So I do think that they have been successful in the past, but I think largely they are the clowns in action CIA as opposed to the big bad.
that's comforting.
Pardon me?
It's comforting.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Let's see. Cain Abel says, I saw horror movies as a little kid and up to my old age. I don't think, is what he's probably said, I don't think gore is the problem. I think they are not raised by parents, mostly don't have a father figure in their lives. I mean, that's the continued given narrative. Is that the sense that you guys have, that it's all family?
No, it can't be.
Well, it's like
people
a bonus.
have to come from 2-parent households, right?
was
It's
that?
just being a teenager sucks. Like it just sucks. You ask a lot of questions about the world. You feel awkward in your body. You go online. You stumble down a rabbit hole through gore. I'm not saying that's like the only thing that does it, but
Yes, but that's like the secondary thing because they're not getting the proper attention, stimulus, and things like that from their parents at home, or if it's one parent, if it's parents that are absent, if it's parents giving them iPads instead of books to read or taking them out to the playground or hiking or whatever. And so then, that is the foundation that they don't have this family, they don't have God, they don't have this structure or this morality, and then they fall into those things. And then comes the rap, or then comes the gore. But it is not the original problem. It's like
they go asking questions.
It's the icing on the cake type of thing. That's what I think.
Soapy Anima says, check out the Boonies HQ Discord. We're trying to grow the community. And then as a actual follow-up to this one, Hal Gailey says, gore is one thing, malice and sadism another. Exposure is secondary to identifying with it. There are signs of such tendencies long before it erupts. So it sounds like he's saying that the behaviors are kind of built in, and that there are things that may help bring it out, but there are people that are predisposed to it.
This has been around forever. Did you guys read Marquis de Sade? Mm-hmm. Julia? This stuff has been around for a while, right? But
not to mention all the rest of French literature.
Oof. But I remember reading that. I was like, this is a lot. Okay. But you have to have that emptiness that you're kind of filling with some radical stuff to, because I read it, I'm not out there doing any of that, right? But other kids or other people who may not have some stronger foundation, I don't even say I'm perfect. I could have easily fell into any stuff, but it's really that lack of moral foundation, I think, that is the root cause, and that is just an add-on. Or they may have some tendencies, and without proper guidance and access to these things, it metastasizes.
There's also
and there's just bad people.
People talk about nature versus nurture, and obviously it's both.
Right.
Obviously it's both. So,
but the uptick has to be explained. I think there's an uptick.
I don't even know if it's an uptick. I think it's just that we are existing now, and so we look at everything that is happening now as the ultimate, crux of history, and it just isn't.
There's also the availability
there was,
heuristic,
There
right?
was way more violence in the Middle Ages than there is now. There was way more violence in the early Americas
Yeah,
than
but
there
we
is
like to
now.
think
There
of
was
ourselves
child
as
sacrifice.
evolved. Yeah.
Sure, and maybe we are, and maybe we're exactly the same as the Crusaders. You know, when you look at letters home from war from the Crusades and you look at letters home from the Civil War, like they're the same letters. It's the same. You know what I mean? Like human beings haven't changed very much. We just have more stuff. And we have, you know, and in a lot of ways, we are extremely less violent than we used to be. And that's why every incidence of violence strikes us so profoundly. These things didn't used to be profound. Like your sister would get raped and your cousin would get murdered and there'd be duels. People used to, I mean,
We
Alexander.
didn't have boys thinking they were girls, and we didn't have
Sure,
the
but
level
like-
of like any of this.
Sure. So now we have this weird social stuff as well. But Alexander Hamilton's son literally died in a duel over dishonor.
I like
you
that.
know, Alexander Hamilton fought in a duel over dishonor and with Aaron Burr, and he was killed as well. So we've had this kind of violence, and it's been much more severe for most of human history. We're in a shockingly peaceful era, but we see every incidence of violence as like, you know, some horror because it interrupts our peaceful existence. But we have a peaceful existence, right? I mean, we don't have turrets on our homes. We're not like
I've
fighting our
been
neighbors. Even the Hatfields and the McCoys, like that was a long time ago. Here we are in West Virginia. So, you know, you talk about the feud. But anyway.
I don't know. I mean, I just listed a ton of them the other day, like on my Twitter, like all the crimes me and my family have been like a victim of, right? Like it's multiples, right? Like it's not tens, it's like 20s, right? And that may not be everybody in the United States' existence. And I understand that crime happens more, but I don't think like one family should have over their lifetime 50 incidents of actual crime and some violent crime on their family. I just
But urban, and I think
50?
I think you're right. But urban areas have literally always been more violent.
True.
I mean,
But-
the Middle
also
Ages.
like everybody we know.
The Middle Ages in Europe, if there have always been more violent crimes with more population
Of
density.
course, but it's not like
And that's back when you would die from an ingrown toenail.
it's not like it's. I just
about
I
violence.
know so many people that have been victims of crimes and some don't even get reported, right? Like some things just whatever. But I just feel like I remember my grandparents living in Philadelphia, my parents living in Philadelphia, and it definitely, there is definitely a different feeling. There's definitely a different, an uptick in these things. Like these things didn't happen to my grandmother and she lived in Port Richmond. Like it didn't happen to them, 60 years ago. It didn't, it didn't. And so yes, I can understand that, like, okay, in the grand scheme of things, in this time period, that it's less than, when there were barbarians and whatever, but there is something going on. There's a spiritual warfare going on. There is some humanity loss, some no respect for life or respect or morals or any of that. There is that uptick. And I just feel like if you're denying that and like, not that you're excusing it away, but like, that you have to really see that there is a problem here. That's all.
All right. Well, call sign Ewok says, sorry, Libby, you're wrong about MS-13. It was started by El Salvadorian refugee teenagers who were getting it beat up by others' local gangs.
Yeah, weren't
the
they
teens were into
stoners?
Black Sabbath and made
Really?
the devil horns part of their
I thought
gang sign.
I thought it came to be in a prison.
Well, I don't think they were.
Maybe they
I don't think they were violent at first, because when I was reading up on this earlier, in the 80s, some El Salvadorian teens who had escaped the Civil War back home were just like hanging out, drinking, smoking, listening to heavy metal, and then eventually needed to start defending themselves. And then in the 90s, this guy who had been trained by Green Berets came over and militarized everybody.
Well,
And
I was
so it
half
goes.
right because it did
Back
come
and
of
forth.
origin in
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
New guys don't haze me. Where'd it go? New guys don't haze me says, rip Phil if he says calm down at all during this episode. I'll tell Lisa to calm down.
Yeah, he can tell me that.
without any fear.
Yeah, no.
I don't know about these two, but Lisa.
Yeah, we're good.
Let's see here.
Relax, Lisa. Relax. Settle down. I think that's funny, actually.
Cat318 says, what is happening to these kids in Texas? The family of Carmelo Anthony has taken the money raised for his kids' defense and bought cars and $800K house.
Okay, I'm going to kind of defend this kid.
Okay, so
That didn't happen.
yeah, they didn't actually buy an $800,000 house. The house they're renting, and it is a nice house, but they're renting the house so that way they have a place that is not where they used to live because of because of all the publicity surrounding the trial and stuff.
And they were already in a nice house, from what I understand. Like he already owned a nice house. They're renting this house.
They're not from the hood. Right, these are suburban kids. These kids, the schools.
He does finance for a car dealership or something, but the mom's unemployed. But apparently, they still had like a $900,000 house. I think was originally what they had.
Yes, and also they haven't been able to touch their donations yet.
Not yet, yeah.
So I think it's just
The donations
the
should
internet
be set
telephone
up.
game. Everyone was speculating, and so then it became fact. But
Like when the donations go in, they should be set up for legal defense to where they're only allowed to be paid out to the legal funds and not to, so it doesn't look like people are getting rich on these donations. It should only be able to go to the legal defense, and then any portion that is unused returned.
I don't, whether or not, I mean, you can have that opinion.
Jacob's
it's
on
perfectly
tomorrow,
fine,
so.
but I don't think that the people that are donating care.
No, they don't.
They don't care at all.
No, they don't. But I'm talking about like in the grand scheme of like what would be morally ethical. You shouldn't, like if you're raising funds after you killed somebody, you shouldn't be able to use it on anything but whatever. What are you saying? No.
I'll get a weird
Nothing.
comment.
I'll tell you after. Eric Bloodaxe says, so did anyone notice the classified doc released by the DNI that shows federal classification of gun owners as terrorists? Check out the S2's Wire report. Yes, I did. I actually retweeted tweeted it and retweeted a bunch of tweets about it. Essentially, this isn't really news, though. Like, if you paid attention to these kind of things, you knew during the Biden administration looked at gun owners as potential threats. The Democrats more broadly want to abolish the Second Amendment and take everyone's guns. I don't care how many times they say we respect the Second Amendment, but they don't at all. They want to get rid of private gun ownership. Right now, they're going after semi-automatic. In Colorado, there's a bill that's going to get rid of semi-automatic gas-operated rifles, which is almost every semi-automatic rifle. They want to get rid of semi-autos because, well, look at what happened in Afghanistan. Like the reason that the United States was never able to really subdue Afghanistan is because of rifles. The reason that the U.S. was never able to subdue Vietnam is because of rifles. Valkyrie 0010 says, the 2A is meant to prevent the government from having a monopoly on violence. For this reason, your idea that we only have the hope of legal recourse. The YouTube app just crashed, so I couldn't finish that. So let's see.
We got a private text message from James Klug that said, for F's sake, move on from foreign policy.
James, hush. Calm down, James. Let's see. Where'd it go? The 2A is meant to prevent the government from having a monopoly on violence. For this reason, your idea that we only have the hope of legal recourse is the problem. The government must fear armed recourse if we are to be a free people. Look, man, there are some things you can't say on YouTube. Yeah. And so,
Co-signed. Yeah.
So with that, we go to Raven Gray. The largest extortion racket is pre-industrial Japan. Was conducted Buddhist monks. Most people presuppose Buddhism equals pacifism. I have absolutely no idea about that.
Did anybody bring up Buddhism?
I don't think so.
I didn't think so
Yoga.
either.
We brought up yoga.
Which I said was satanic, kind of.
So, Cain Abel says, you don't need courts to tell if illegals should be deported. You just need to check if they're citizens or not. If not, deport. That's where I'm at, man. Look, there are at least 10 million illegals, probably 15 or 20 million illegals that came in the Biden administration because Joe Biden specifically said he told them to break the law. right? So this administration trying to fix the lawlessness of previous administrations means that we're going to have to do some things that the left isn't going to like. But guess what? The good news is the left isn't going to like anything that Trump does, so it doesn't matter. They're going to act like this. They're going to act like it's the end of the world no matter what he does. It's better for America if they just start rounding up the illegals and sending them home. Let's see. You use the federal document cave for prisons. I mean, just file them. Put them in the filing cabinets. The caves that they had the documents that Doge found. You had to if you wanted people to retire, there were only so many people that could retire because they had to use the cave to file the stuff. So I guess we're just going to start filing criminals now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, let's see. Last one here. War pig snore. No man wants to hear a bunch of women yapping about politics when they can't get drafted. There you go.
Kind of agree.
Calm down.
It's fine.
Fair enough.
It's funny because somebody was like, Lisa wants everybody to stay home and make babies, and here she is yapping and talking to all everybody. Yeah, true. Like, I know. I'm very aware of my hypocrisy here, but...
All right, I told you were going to have plenty to say.
I did. I really didn't think I was going to have anything to say.
Of course you didn't think that, but you don't think that you have much to say anytime. Yeah. All right, smash the like button, share the show with your friends, head on over to rumble.com and become a member, and you can join us in that after show. You can also go to timcast.com and become a member there, join the Discord, and then you can call in the after show, which we're going to go to in just a few minutes. Actually, we're going to go now in just a few minutes, and then we'll have a little preview, I believe, and then we'll go on over to the callers from the Discord. So, Maggie, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, go follow me on X at Maggie Moda and on YouTube at Undoctrination. Thank you guys so much for having me today.
Tomorrow.
Come on.
Tomorrow, watch the Culture War. We're moving the time again. We'll be going forward 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Tomorrow we have on...
Is Angry Cops coming?
Angry Cops.
Angry Cops.
Richard,
I love you.
Andrew Branca.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. And
that's the Law of Self-Defense on Twitter.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
And the guy from the Give, Send, Go, Jacob Wells.
Awesome.
So we're going to be talking all about this this case, and Tim will be talking about if it's self-defense or not.
I wish that I was going to be here. I would definitely come if I wasn't.
It's going to be very interesting for sure. So tune into that if you care what I have to say. I don't really tweet all the time, but if you want to follow me, it's Lisa Elizabeth on Twitter.
They're spicy. You should follow her. Libby.
They're rare.
I'm Libby Emmons with the Post Millennial. You can check out my work at Libby Emmons on Twitter, or see what we're doing at thepostmillennial.com or humanevents.com. And if you want to subscribe to my newsletter, I would love it, and it's brand new every day. You can subscribe at thepostmillennial.com/Libby. Thanks.
Libby's putting in the work.
She is.
Let's go.
She's awesome. I am Phil That Remains on Twix, and I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. You can follow me there. And so check out the Culture War tomorrow, and check out IRL tomorrow night. We will see you then.